Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the week, first stream of the week, the Monday stream. Hopefully everyone's doing all right. We are back live. Refresh your screens if you can't see me. I'm going to type it into the chat. Sometimes some people get lost before I can go live. Maxime, I'll answer that question. I do want to bring it back. There's just a lot on my plate in terms of what I want to do. I wish I could do it all. Who else do we have in here? A lot of guys I recognize. Bueller, PL, 6-Stacks, Geo, Rosier. What's going on? Must stay all the humans say human. I know everyone's a human. I just know that there was a lot of people squeaking in because someone in the group was passing along the YouTube link and then making people pay $100 to watch, which didn't seem right. What else we got? SK, what's up? Good morning, wherever you are. Forever Humbled, welcome. First stream. I know there's a couple of you guys who are brand new this week. I think you'll get the hang of things after today or after a few days. If there's anything I cover, which you're like, where the hell did he come up with that? After you watch a stream or two in a row, I think you'll get the hang of it. So what I want to cover today is Bitcoin in this slow grind up. There's not really anything technically that I'm going to be able to break down, even on small time frames. It's just that, right? Ever since kind of the first pause after our 4100 pump, it has literally just been a slow grind straight up. Now with like 6 green dailies almost in a row. Continue to think the first level that has any chance of stopping this positive momentum is 55. It doesn't mean I think that the entire push is done, but I do think that's probably the first level where I would consider very strong selling pressure, or I would consider that to be a level where maybe things actually do pause for an extended period of time, longer than a day, right? I'll talk about Bitcoin though, and still the plan. It's just, I'm probably going to breeze over it just because we've covered it in depth for the past 5 or 10 minutes in the past few streams. The active trade for today that I want to look at is Tron. I don't do a lot of video updates for ideas, right? You guys know I usually post, there it is. I usually just post a chart and kind of a thought process with my trades, but Tron last week on Thursday morning, sometimes I think it's easier to maybe get an idea out with video. I think I can maybe explain a little bit more, and Tron was one of those. And it's kind of played out to a T. It was honestly something that I wasn't too excited about, and I definitely wasn't expecting the move to happen this quick. But I'll talk about why that news from Justin Sun, it looks like, was enough to pump the price, and why even if you didn't catch this Tron move, I think it's an important one to review, or something important to pay attention to, and why I think there could even be a second trading opportunity for people that missed that move and do like Tron. I think if Tron gets up in this region, I'll talk about why I think that would be pretty positive. And I'll probably be looking to add to longs there and think that I could probably run it further. And I'll talk about kind of how this trade could maybe even play into a longer term play. All right, so Tron's the biggest one I want to focus on today. The one that I've been watching for a while and sitting long in this thing for a while now, I think it's been a full week, is EOS, and we have just got nothing out of EOS. There's even a very small time frame move today. Small time frame move today where it spiked up, and I thought it was finally going to go on its move up. I'm looking for like a 20% play on EOS, and it fully retraced that move in like a matter of 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm not sure if that was all Coinbase news driven, whatever it was. I do still like this play. I'll talk about why. I think all through April, May, I think this is one of the coins along with Tron that has a nice catalyst to go along with it. So in terms of majors, I'm still mostly focused on EOS and Tron. The Bitcoin Cash play, or my view on this, my view on Bitcoin Cash, hell of a trade for the past couple weeks. And I decided to leave some on even after our full target was hit, really because I think this thing can continue up to 0.09, but I'm still not a buyer or wanting to add unless we get above that level. It's very similar to the Tron play, and I'll talk about why in case you missed the stream yesterday, so I'll kind of breeze through that one. I don't think there's much to cover. I did expect that we were actually going to move higher already on Bitcoin Cash, though, so I've been wrong on that one for the past day or two. Still turned out to be a hell of a trade, but definitely not behaving like I thought it would today. And then what else did I want to cover? There's a few mid caps I'm like open to looking at, and I'll definitely take people's questions. But to be completely honest, guys, I'm just not very excited on that front. I think as long as Bitcoin plays in between these two major high time frame levels, generally, as Bitcoin's getting this much action, this much volume, and this much movement each day, it's really going to be a large cap show. It's going to be a Bitcoin show. It's going to be an EOS show, ADA, ETH, all those. It's just not that exciting for the Binance and the mid caps, right? Unless Bitcoin can get a pause, unless Bitcoin can pause right here and stop right here, unless Bitcoin can range for a little bit or whatever it is, right? Most mid caps won't catch that momentum just yet. And then I also have one quick update on, you guys know that every once in a while, I like to have like one or two longer term trade ideas. I would call them much higher risk plays, very small position plays. Tomo was one of them. I think it was my best play so far for 2019, 3 or 4x. BGG is the one that I liked as of last week. And it started off the week pretty well. I think it was up like 50, 60%, and it's fully retraced that entire move. It is right back to where we started, and I'll talk about why, or the news that was coming out. If you're not going to watch that far, I am still planning on holding it. I'm never going to give anyone else advice on what they should do, but for me, it's still a longer term play. I'm fine if it actually does kind of fizzle out, but it doesn't really kind of change my conviction or my thought on that one as being a longer term kind of riskier, high risk, high reward play. But I'll definitely cover that news. I think that's a quick rundown of everything I want to cover. Big group in here today. I know as the market picks up, we get a lot more people interested to watch. Every single day, a lot of things to take advantage of. I guess even today, a little bit sleepy relative to how it's been trading, but still opportunity. So for me, no new trade ideas, but tons of things to look at. Quick shout out to everyone sitting here. Let me make sure there's not any questions I need to hit before we get started. PL, mini pumping up on EOS. Yes, there was. Valerio, what's going on? Shub, what's up? SK, what's up? Forever humbled, cheers. Like I said, man, welcome. Geo, cool. Crypto PS, hello, sir. Per crypto bits here. Nice. Yeah, if you guys have a different name, sometimes it's hard for me to put a name to a face, but I'll recognize you after a while. Maxime, one question I'm gonna answer before I go into the analysis, so bear with me here, guys. Question about the coin is bought, whether or not that's gonna come back online. I want it to come online, but the biggest issue that I was having was there was still an issue with the API and when it was sending signals out publicly, right? So the last day that I think it ran, there was like a 36-minute delay on one of the updates, and that's just not acceptable. And I do want to get it fixed so bad, but I've been pushing really, really hard on the podcast. So it's a project I want to put out. Trust me, I just haven't got to it. Anyways, let's get to the charts. So Bitcoin, which is still grinding up literally as we speak right now, up 1% of the day, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still positive, right? We look at the weekly close, which happened yesterday, and it has this amazing candle, and we had a nice move into kind of right at the close last night at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Generally, the first level that I think has any validity, you can look at it on a daily time frame, you can look at it on a weekly time frame. I think the daily maybe points it out a little bit clearer, right? Just a really quick review of this. The first level after this drop from 6K that caught any kind of support was right here, right? You can see the wicks through, closing above, wicks through, closing above. You get one nice little green daily, and then we actually drop. So 54.70 up to about 55.50 is that first level that I'm expecting this previous, even if it was a brief support, to at least offer some kind of resistance there, right? And as we grind up slowly, right, we're just really in between two major levels. Down here is where I think it's probably attractive to be bidding if we got pullbacks. Why do I think it's a lot more attractive down here? Because it's a lot closer to where I'd be wrong. Right? I'd be wrong if Bitcoin actually traded back below 4,100. Then I'd be worried that maybe this is very short-lived and this is just a small pop. I don't think that's the case. I think that's a very small percentage chance that's the case. But I wouldn't, I think that's kind of the first attractive level in terms of waiting for a dip to buy. As Bitcoin grinds up, now we're what, $300 or $200 away from kind of this first high time frame resistance. So for that exact same reason, right, the first level of any action to be taken for me, and I don't want anyone to follow just what I'm doing just because I'm doing it. But in terms of having it marked on your own charts and in terms of understanding where there could be selling pressure, right, based on this level kind of being the only level in between 6K down to where we actually stop dropping at 4,300, right, as that being the only level of any kind of support, that's where I'd be looking for some selling pressure or some orders to step in. If we close above that, the exact same way as when we broke below it, right, and we actually extended further, if we close above that in the 5550, 5580, 5600 range, then I'm thinking we actually run to the full, 6K 6200, right? So that's kind of the first level of action for me in terms of Bitcoin. Right now, it's fun to watch it grind up. I don't think there's a high probability or any kind of edge I have in trying to determine in between these two major levels which way it's going to move. I've said it before, I'm neutral in terms of trying to guess, whether or not we actually get a pullback or whether or not we actually reach this 5,500 first without a pullback. But if I had to have a bias or if I had to have a position, I would definitely still want to be long. Right? It just blew past my target way faster than I thought it would. It was hard to predict a 1K candle. Right? I was long, but I definitely missed out on some upside. So for me, nothing changes in terms of my Bitcoin view. I just I'm not ready to join the party again while we're only $200 away from this resistance. Above this resistance, I like it again, right? Or a pullback. I think this is where things get a lot more exciting for alts. So nothing changes there for Bitcoin. Hopefully that gives you kind of I just want to paint a picture there or give you something to think about in terms of major levels. And you can obviously build what plan works best for you depending on what your style is. Some people that are really small time frame are fine, trading the 15-hour swings in here. That's just not my style. You guys know my style that have been with me for long enough. What do we got? PLs, we're reaching resistance. I start thinking if then show for majors as in EOS and those are over. Yeah, I've considered that PL, but to be quite honest, the weekly charts on those and the daily charts on those, I'm not convinced at all that those would stop their movement, even if Bitcoin does pause here, right? Maybe it does make them kind of throw back slightly, or maybe it does pause their positive momentum. I think a lot more of the action would probably move from these majors over to mid caps, but I don't think that that their uptrends would necessarily stop. As long as Bitcoin is bullish, I'm still seeing a positive correlation between alts and Bitcoin. So I still don't buy the case that if Bitcoin stops, it's a little bit different from, I'll qualify that. It's a little bit different from when Bitcoin was down here and stopping momentum at 4,100, right? And ETH and EOS and everything, we get pullbacks. Bitcoin stopping here is different in the sense that this was still this whole time period is still ranging with possibility of new lows. Now that this has happened and we have a clear higher high, from the previous 1, 2, 3, 4 highs, right? Depending on whether or not you think the bear market is over, quote unquote, and I think that gets thrown around just like alt season. I don't think it's so helpful to try to, guess whether or not that's the ultimate bottom. This structure is way different than the uptrend of these three pushes, right? So even if, let's say, EOS and Tron and those coins do kind of pause as Bitcoin hits here, I would be a lot less worried about them actually kind of dropping and finding new lows as I was when Bitcoin was finding an equal high 2 or 3 times, right? This structure, this push is a lot different than these 3 pushes, if you get what I mean. So I wouldn't be too worried. I would still like being in EOS. I would still like being in Tron. I would still think that Bitcoin Cash has a chance to move. Right. Another DR. No, I do not. Doesn't mean you can't. I just personally don't like. I keep my charts rather clean. Sometimes I have a RSI on, right? But I understand every indicator. I've probably used every single one of them too. But for me personally, I can see just about everything I need to with horizontal levels and with trend lines. You could use them. Another doctor, I try to use confirmations. I'll kind of go over that. What's up, Max? Shub, we will get to that in a moment. Let me get through everything I want to cover first. As it just probably applies to more people. Tron, right? The idea from Thursday, or the most recent trade idea, I guess I should say, besides the, I'm not even kind of considering the idea from Saturday as a new trade idea. It just happened in like 5 or 10 minutes. So whoever was online with me on Saturday morning, that was a fun little 5-10% swing. But I know not a lot of you guys were up trading 24/7, as you shouldn't be, right? Anyways, the idea from Thursday, Tron, which I did not expect to perform this well so quickly, right? The idea was this, and even if you didn't trade this, I think it's probably still important to pay attention to, because ranges are something that are going to come up a ton, even if you do use indicators and you have a different charting style. I think understanding both the yearly open, some ranges, and also why I think there could be a bigger headwind here for Tron might apply. Right, so the idea for Tron, as we were looking at the video, we were down here around 530, 524. And the idea was, this is not just a random support pick, right? I'm not just zooming out and saying, oh, I like this support. Why is it any better than this support? The reason being is this is the yearly open, and I would just check out that video I drew, or the video I have that I uploaded in that channel if you're curious why I think that matters. A lot of price action guys have a million uses for yearly open, daily open. For me, it's a lot more of a psychological thing, and kind of picturing what that candle would look like and understanding where you would want to get in. To put it in a 10-second explanation, right? If you think about the yearly candle, which right now looks like this, right? So far, I know we're only 4 months into it. If this is the yearly open, right, this is where that yearly started, and so far, right, we're up this amount, right? This is the current price. This is where we opened. You have to think this is here, right? So obviously we could move below, and that's where my idea would be invalidated. But until that happens, I liked being long, right? So just conceptually, I like to use yearly and daily opens like that. Some price action guys, there's a couple guys on Twitter that do really cool stuff with yearly and daily opens, but I think just understanding it from that point alone is probably enough that you can add to your own game. Anyways, with Tron, the idea here being long from the bottom of the range, and the reason I wanted to aim for the top of the range, and the reason why I think there could be another trade here, is that Justin Sun just came out with an announcement. Whether or not you like Tron, or you think that he just blows hot air and then his announcements are a bit ridiculous, I kind of fall under that line of thinking. It doesn't matter, right? His announcements 100% are driving market, are driving interest. This level, which has been resistance 3 times in the past, call it 610, call it 615, kind of calling this whole zone resistance, right? As I move into the bottom of the range, it's the exact same thing as Bitcoin, right? Back in the beginning of March. For those of you guys that were with me back then, what was the most important level in March? Obviously, before we know what happens now, before we cheat, right? It was this resistance support flip. This level, previous resistance, 3,700, which became support. Exact same thing. This is the yearly open, right? 3,700. So this level that was resistance becomes support. As long as that level holds, I want to be long. It's almost the exact same story with Tron, right? This yearly open. So the reason that this play is a little bit exciting, as I'm kind of just tracking the range, as long as we're closing above here, it's now been a nice 10-15% play. If we can close above this level, and we've already tapped it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right? We've covered a few trades like this probably in the past month. I think VET is maybe the one that you can remember the most, right? Here's resistance being touched. 1, 2, 3. The 4th time it's touched, as a level continues to get hit, right? Generally, that level is going to be a little bit weaker. So that's why I think Tron's a bit exciting, even if you're not on the original trade with me, right? I might be looking to add long if we get a daily close above 615, up in here in the 615, 619, whatever it is range. And now that Justin Sun announced that, I think they're coming out with second layer scaling solutions, or whatever the hell he wants to announce for March, or for May, I should say, right? I don't care if you don't like Tron, or I don't care if you think that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter. They're driving, announcements. They're driving things that are going to drive volume and volatility. So I like that as a trader. If we get above 619, this, I think, all of a sudden becomes attractive for at least another 20% play. And I'm keeping a little bit of this Tron move on. But so far, just from Thursday, the most recent trade idea, another nice little 10, 15% swing over the weekend, right? It's kind of beautiful how well a lot of these majors have worked out. Like I said, Bitcoin Cash did not behave for me, but still a nice trade. That's Tron. So if you didn't get on board this, I'd be waiting for above here. That's where I'm personally waiting for. It's not advice for you to do the same, but that's, consider this resistance. I wouldn't be a buyer here. I would be a buyer once we break above resistance and looking for a daily close to confirm that level. I think it's pretty clear why I want to fade or at least take partial profit here. I think everyone understands that idea. That's the most recent idea. The idea which has been cool forever. The idea which still hasn't played out for us, guys, and we've had some the major season, I guess you could call it, major alt season. It's been very good to us with the ADA plays, right? I feel like we couldn't have got the top any better, right? Only want to be long on ADA once it's back above 1963. I mean, we literally got the top on that one. Bitcoin Cash, I still have some on, so didn't by any means play this one perfect. I probably got a little bit greedy, but still kind of got the top on that one at 0.065. I think with EOS, this is really the only one in terms of majors that I've moved into and just really hasn't wanted to move. And I'm not sure why it's still consolidating at this level, but as I zoom out and try to keep things in perspective and try to not be impatient with this, at the same time also being objective and understanding I could be wrong here, right? If I look at the weekly, and the best way that I can describe this, I tried to describe it in the last video, right? If this is probably the bottom of every major alt so far, just in the most recent cycle. I'm not saying it's the all-time bottom. I'm not saying that EOS could never go lower. But if you look at where most majors bottomed out in the past 3 or 4 months, it's exactly where Bitcoin bottomed out, and that happened on December 15th or December 10th. And so that's probably the lowest it's been. So if you think about the most recent resistance that took us down to that level, right? That level that was previous resistance now is flipping back to support. And that to me is a nice little pivot. So as I zoom out on the weekly, and now we're getting our first close above this level, right? This is resistance. Anywhere in here is resistance, right? This is all selling pressure that took us down to kind of that capitulation or the low for majors, right? This, as we close back through it, this I'm viewing as now all buying pressure. This is like a pivot, right? Once you're below it, it's resistance. Once you're back above it, I view it as support. So as long as we're above this zone, however much room you want to give that, I'm generally kind of viewing, just based on how other majors have moved, I'm generally viewing the path of least resistance to be up here, right? I'm targeting at 129,000 sats. For EOS, they also have a big announcement coming out in June. I'm not trying to shill this. I'm just passing along the exact same way I've done for the past 2 months with ADA, Bitcoin Cash, and Tron, right? What is the most attractive major, both from a technical perspective and also from a narrative? What do they have coming out? What's going to drive prices? Things like that. To me, EOS has been frustrating. It literally hasn't moved all week, but as I zoom out and think about, should I bail on this? Is it moving too slow? Or should I move slow on this personally because the weekly looks good? I still think it looks good. Just my own personal opinion. I could be wrong on this. The major, our run with these major alts might come to an end, but I still like being long EOS, even if Bitcoin does catch resistance here. So hopefully that kind of, just wanted to re-go over that one. I'm only kind of rehashing these out with you guys just because I don't have a new idea for today. Generally, I'm just not too excited on anything until Bitcoin reaches one of these major levels, which it looks like it's going to happen. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor. The biggest things I wanted to cover was Tron hitting our first target, and EOS, why I still think it's attractive. I do like Bitcoin Cash, as I mentioned in the last stream, but obviously the big swing is over. I just think that in the exact same way as Tron, if we close above 0.067, all of a sudden I think that does open up the door for a run to these highs. Right? And that's like another 39, 37%, 34%. And so it might have been a little bit greedy in keeping some on here, but regardless, it's still been a nice play. I know a lot of you guys wrote that. Mid-cap Binance alts, just nothing going for me there. I don't think it's exciting. I still like them. I think it's fine to give them a little bit of room, but I don't, there's just, for the past 3 weeks, I think almost 2 weeks at least, there's no reason, I don't think, to enter into Binance or mid-cap alts as long as Bitcoin is moving this fast. They're just not going to do too well, right? Even setups that I think look really good. I think we looked at NEO the other day, and I thought this retest looked good, right? And it still could do pretty well. I think there's one we marked up, right? I'll definitely look at ARK notabytes. This is one we looked at the other day. I'll redraw that. Right, so we're looking at NEO as, I guess you could say it is a large cap. I would probably call it a mid cap. I really kind of call large caps the top 10. As we look at NEO, this support level back from August, this cycle low, if you want to call it, this level that breaks becomes resistance. As price can reclaim this, I think last week or just a few days ago, everyone on Twitter was just pumped about this, right? And how great this looked. And I think it still does look good. But what we're seeing is, I guess you could bring that a little bit lower. What we're seeing is most of these coins, no matter how strong they look, and I think NEO looks pretty good here, I'd even give myself a little bit more room, is we're just not seeing them have any kind of follow through. I just think the action continues to be on large caps, at least for now. Maybe that changes tomorrow. Maybe that changes later tonight. But I still don't have a good case for wanting to attack a lot of Binance coins. And you guys know how quick that switch can flip. Right? I mean, it was, what was it, mid-January or trying to think of the time. Like, we went from, I think there was almost a full 6 or 7 day period where I didn't want any new trades. And then we go, QuantStamp, DNT, Go, LRC. It was like you could kind of have a trade every other day just because there was a period where mid caps were running, right? And that's in all of March. So there are days where I know, and I'll definitely look at some of these coins, I know it's like you want to fire at everything or things look good and Bitcoin's looking good. And it's like, how can alts not move up? I just still don't see it. Notabytes, ARK. I will definitely take a look at it. ARK, where is it at? I'm not sure what this level is from. Quick refresh here on ARK just to set the stage a little bit. Notabytes, also give me a little bit of background. You're looking for an entry, looking for an exit, currently long. It helps me kind of think about how I should craft this. But anyways, if you want to set the stage or get a map of where we are currently, cycle low back here. Obviously, my eyes are going to lock to that first. I think a lot of people in here will as well. September 12th, right? Why is that important? It's the best reference point for a lot of mid caps. It's where most of them were very depressed. That's typically a good support. I would give that support more strength than pretty much any other level on the chart, right? So that level just immediately is going to be kind of interest. Past that, the first level that I'm going to look to is where did we run after that cycle low, right? Where is like the swing high after that? And to me, it's sticking out around right here. All right, this swing high, and you can see it flipping back to support. I imagine this is what you're talking about, notabytes. And now, kind of right here, it's a question of, does this become support again? Right, as it did on this little retest on the 17th. I think, yeah, weekly looks like a possible support resistance retest. If I was looking at this with no opinion on macro and no other inputs of what's happening in the alt scene, I would immediately kind of say I think this does look very good, right? I could say this is kind of a whole zone right in here, all the way really down to 12,000 sats. Right? Kind of paint this out real quick. If this is my resistance pivot. And then once it flips, it's kind of becoming that support pivot. Right? Immediately, I would say that's good if I had no kind of opinion on what's happening macro-wise. But based on, as I scroll down the list of every single coin I'm kind of seeing on Binance and on mid-caps and just what I expect to happen right now, I'm not sure I'd be rushing in. If I look at this, yes, I could very clearly have a setup here and say, as long as prices are closing above this 12,000 sats, right? Or this kind of, this was all resistance, this whole zone, and this level I'd probably be expecting to be support. So I could be entering here. I could be firing bids all through this zone here, this little 2 or 3% zone, whatever that is. And if we close below 12,000 sats, I'd probably want to be out. And where am I aiming on based on previous high time frame levels? I think that sticks out as previous support, also turned resistance here. Right, so I think that gives you a nice risk reward, and I do think that's a good idea there. I don't know. I don't even know if I could talk myself out of that. I think that does look really good, to answer the question, notabides. But in terms of whether or not I think it takes off right now or it takes off in the short term, I'm going to just lean on the side of I'm still not too excited about mid caps. We just haven't seen them be able to catch any kind of bids, right? It's still it's still a large cap driven market. But I do think that's a clean setup. I think it's a clean setup, notabides. The only other level I'd wait, right? Like, let's say if you did want to play this tight, if you thought this was a little bit riskier, if you did want to play that tight, or if you wanted to wait, right? I think this level to bid, I think, makes a lot of sense. And if it closes below, I probably wouldn't want to be in it. Outside of that, I think the cycle low, if I get a second touch or a second chance at cycle lows, I think that'd be really interesting. But for now, I think this does make a ton of sense. I'm glad you brought this one up. I like that chart. I think that's a risk that I would take. That's something where I like the setup a lot. I'm just not sure it kind of fits my model of, do I think right now this is a window to swing Binance alts? I think it's early. I think it's a riskier. It's kind of pushing the risk a little bit further. But I think it makes sense from a technical perspective. From a macro perspective, I'm not sure it fits exactly what I want to do. But I like it. I like the setup. SK, any thoughts on the link? I see you down there, Gio. Alexa, stop. Amazon listening to the stream here. Link. Yeah, I'm not gonna have an opinion on Link SK. This is the one that was kind of behaving unlike any other alt really ever since like September. I'm not gonna have an opinion on this. I still think it's overbought. I'm not sure what's driving this. It's not a framework, or it's not a chart or a model or anything that I feel like I can take advantage of. If I had to pick like a level out of the dark that I would find interesting, it'd probably be this level, which is a previous all-time high. It's kind of like that BNB level, right? All-time high twice. You have the massive breakout. If it comes back down to 9,700, I think that's interesting. But this isn't, I believe you've been in here for a little bit. You kind of see, if I'm going to have a killer week or a killer month, or if I have high conviction idea, a lot of the time it's going to be based on being able to, understand what Bitcoin's going to do, or at least have a pretty good idea of what I think Bitcoin will do, and then what that's going to cost to alts. And then let's say I have a framework like the cycle low framework, or for about 2 weeks straight we had these continuation plays as a framework, right, where every single coin was breaking past its first swing high. We can move in on the continuation and run it, right? That one, or Loom, or VET, or whatever it is, right? I want to see a pattern or something in a coin that I can take advantage of, kind of over and over. Right? And then understanding, once I see the first cycle low play run, then I say, okay, what other chart looks like a cycle low play? I can take advantage of that one, and that one. Right? If there's something that's acting like this, it doesn't mean you can't trade it, or it doesn't mean I couldn't trade it either. But, whoa, not LRC. What was the coin we were just looking at? Link. Getting back to my point, I think you could. I'd have to have pretty good conviction on why I wanted to move into this, right? Or what's driving this fundamentally, or just kind of, I don't know. It's not something that I can fit into my system right now. And since I'm just not too excited about mid caps anyways, right, probably not ready to swing it for me. That's just for me. The first level that I find interesting though, as what I think would be support, 98, 97, 80. I definitely think that I would expect buying pressure there, but it's not something where, I have something that I can exploit, right? Maybe as a one-time, but it's not something that over the long time is going to be positive for me. Geo, yesterday you entered XRP. Oh, 2019 open level. I didn't think about it like that. Is that... oh, okay. Okay. What do we got? What do we got? Ryan. ETH BTC does become interesting above 0.034. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it is interesting above 0.034. Right? I guess this is probably, EOS could maybe join ETH as being the one major, which I just couldn't get to work this cycle, right? We have ADA, which was a killer. We have Bitcoin Cash, which was a massive one. We have Tron now, which is working out to be kind of a really nice little swing in the past 4 or 5 days. ETH is the one that I personally entered along 0.034 and I thought looked good along 0.034 and had to take that 5% hit. I think now that it's back above, yeah, I think this is interesting, right? I think anytime it can get above, and now this level is a little bit messy, right? Because you have a couple times where it chops up at this level, it chops up this level here, it chops up this level here. But generally, when it's above 0.034, right, that has led to a good push. It's what led to the most recent swing high push. It's a serious support right here. So I think that's, it's just hard to call, SK. I think that above 0.034 is interesting, Ryan, but I'm not sure. For me personally, it is kind of an abstract idea that I haven't really broke down with you guys yet. It's been something I want to discuss with a couple other people. But I really think that EOS and Tron are just fundamentally and like narrative-wise are poised to get a lot more interest in ETH right now. For whatever reason, and I don't, it's not a hit towards ETH fundamentally. I think ETH is probably a better project than both those, but it's a strange thing going on with Western crypto versus Eastern crypto, and the environment over there is very optimistic. They're still kind of massively piling money into ICOs, and that's where Tron and EOS are, huge, is they have their communities kind of rooted there, and they have, a lot of development going on there, and they have. I just think that a trend that might play out in 2019 is EOS and Tron kind of stealing some of that market share for ETH. That's longer term anyways. I do think, to get back to the point, I do think ETH above 0.034 is interesting. Right? I think this is nice, but I'm not too excited about it. I'm not thrilled about it yet, Ryan. I like it, right? I like it. But, and I could be wrong, right? This could be the one time where now ETH just goes on a face-ripping move. If I was long, I'm targeting that 0.041418. In Feb and in December, it was good to me. This last swing, 5% loss, I just wasn't right on this one, right? I think it could do well, but I'm more interested in Tron and EOS. I think EOS just has a more compelling or a more exciting kind of narrative to it for April and May. Right, kind of the next 30 or 60 days, call it whatever you want. I don't see a case fundamentally that's as exciting for ETH. I think the chart also looks a little bit nicer on EOS. I could be totally wrong there, but that's just how I see it. What do we got? All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. We're at 40 minutes. Shub, I will get Tazos next time for you. VET, I have no thoughts. Right, that's a completed trade, cycle low, and a continuation play from last month. Right, we have 2 trades on this one, both from the cycle low. Right, I think it was a 50% win. 43, and then also even the continuation play from 128. Right, 22% play. I don't have any thoughts on VET. I think this is very similar to Loom. I think it's very similar to QuantStamp. It's like the people on Twitter, and you'll see this a ton. When alts start moving, we saw it all of March. People are saying, what the hell? Why are you taking profits at 30 and 40%? You're going to sell. You're never going to make money. You're missing out on the 2x. And as we look at these coins that we played our cycle low plays on, or we played our continuation plays on, a lot of the times, guys, it's still a sell. It's still a take profit at swing high market. I imagine VET does something similar to Loom. Right? It hit its swing high from our idea, and where does it go back to? It goes back to that that one level down. Exact same thing with QuantStamp. Where's QuantStamp? I haven't even looked at these charts, but I just expect them to do that. Right? Where did QuantStamp move? Continuation play, swing high. Where's it going to go? It's going to go back to where it started. And I think it's probably going to be the exact same thing for VET. Is the only reason I'm kind of dismissing it as a new idea. Shoot. I think it probably gets back down here. That's probably the first level I'd find interesting again. a lot of these continuation plays, I mean, we kind of got the top on a lot of those. Right. That's all I have, guys. I don't have a new idea for you. I wish I did. I just don't have a new idea for myself. I think right now the market's a little bit overextended. We're kind of in a weird period of, we're pretty close to Bitcoin resistance. I do, I still like being long. I still like a lot of alts. I just don't think we're in like a weird middle ground, right? Up here or closing above here, I think it's interesting for Bitcoin. Exact same thing with Tron, right? If we can close above this level, I think it's interesting for Tron. But Tron and EOS are kind of the two that I'm sitting out, and I'm really still stalking a lot of mid-cap and Binance coins, which isn't the most exciting, but as I scroll down my list, like, I'm glad that I'm not adding exposure for the past 7 days, because almost everything is still down 2, 3, 4, 5%. Right? Have to think longer term. That's all I have. For everyone that is new to the stream, welcome. Happy to have you guys. I think you get the hang of things after a few days go by. I always stream, and if you can't catch them live, you can always replay them at your own speed. And if I move really fast in this, it's because I usually cover it in the Discord. Last thing I want to cover, I forgot about this, is BGG. And I rarely do kind of a longer term or a smaller cap ideas, but it is, I have 1 or 2 coins like this at all times. And BGG is the one that I liked for this month. However, bit of a problem just came up with BGG, and it's not affecting what I want to do with the coin. I'm still going to hold it. But you guys, watch the video if you want to understand why I like this coin. They had a bit of a mishap, and I don't think they're an outright scam for this reason. I saw some people calling it a scam, but apparently they're launching, BGG said that, I think this is it. BGG, you guys know the reason I like this. The IEO hype is happening. Coins like BitMax and BNB are going on a tear because of it. This thing's like 4 or 5 million cap with serious institutional backing, so I understand that it's not just going to exit scam. And as they're kind of announcing these IEOs, apparently they announced one here with Algorand, and I guess they were selling people's private sale allocations, which is kind of I don't know. I think they're probably bending the rules of what's allowed. And Algorand kind of came out and said, we're not doing that. So a bit of a misstep by BitGoGo. I wish they wouldn't have done that. That's definitely hurting the token price today. But quite honestly, guys, I view those as like 1 or 3 month investments. They're very high risk. I don't expect them to go to zero, but I'm well aware they could. Right? It's a 3 or 4 million cap coin. It's the same thing when I looked at XM Chain or Tomo. Right? It's like, when something's between 1 and 10 million cap, it's a small position. It's something that I kind of have to hold for 2 or 3 months. And I just think that relative to other projects, it will increase. I still think that for BitGoGo, it's tough to see that they did that today. I wish they wouldn't have, but I don't really change my mind on what I'm picturing for that longer term. Right, just wanted to clear that up. Shub, appreciate it, man. I definitely got you tomorrow. And that's all I got, guys. That's a Monday stream. I will be in the group for a little bit this afternoon or tonight around the daily close, and have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Hopefully we'll make this a good week. A little bit dependent on what Bitcoin can do, so we can get some action going. All right. Cheers, guys. See you soon.